Hi, if you'd like to know what is the best equipment for your new restaurant, cafe or food business, stay tuned and we're going to take you through the 5-step process to selecting the equipment that you need and, more importantly, knowing the equipment that you don't need so you save money. Now, if you'd like to hear weekly updates on all the tips and tricks to starting your own cafe, restaurant or food business, make sure you press the bell and subscribe and you'll be notified every time we drop a new video. Hi, I'm Rowena. I'm a food consultant from Sydney, Australia. Over the years, I've literally helped hundreds of people start their dream food business. Now, food marketing, the name of our consultancy, is all about low cost and no cost strategies to really help you skyrocket your business. So you finally got to the point that you're opening your dream business, and buying the right kitchen equipment is absolutely essential. When you start out, saving every penny is absolutely crucial. You are going to have the cash flow to continue the business and make it long-term sustainable for the future until sales are consistent and the business is really well established. So buying the right kitchen equipment is absolutely crucial, and it's all about buying the equipment that you actually really need as opposed to the equipment you don't, so you don't overspend and you stay within budget. So let's get started through the 5-step process to selecting the equipment that you really need. Step number 1 is to assess your menu. So what you do is you go through every menu item on your menu and you write down all of the pieces of equipment you need to competently make that menu item. So let's take the example of just a very basic beef burger. So what do you need? You obviously need a mincer for the meat, for the patty. You need a patty press. You need a bowl to put the ingredients in. You need spoons and so forth to be able to blend the ingredients. You then need a grill to grill it. Okay, so as you can see, you need a lot of equipment just for that one item. And it doesn't stop there. Then we think about all the accompaniments that go with the burger, so all the salad items. So you need knives, chopping boards, etc. to prepare the accompaniments. So what you do is you put together all of that on the list along with every other menu item. You take it step by step, and soon you will have a very comprehensive list of all the equipment you need. And yes, there will be plenty of double ups, but we'll get to that later, that you will need to be able to create your menu. Okay, step number 2 is to revise your list. So go through the list and delete all the doubles up, and then you will be left with a very comprehensive list. Now, what you need to do is reflect on that list and think if there's any pieces of equipment that are multifunctional. Now, when you're starting out and you don't understand commercial kitchen equipment, it's really a great idea to go to a dealer and have a chat to them. Now, just remember, they're going to, at the end of the day, want to make a sale, but you can generally chat to them and really absorb a lot of their knowledge. What you're on the lookout for are pieces of equipment that can multitask in the kitchen. So let's go back to the hamburger example that we used before. A salamander is a great example of a piece of equipment that can multitask. It can heat, it can grill or broil, it can brown, it can glaze, and the list goes on. So for example, if you're making the hamburger, rather than buying a commercial toaster for toasting the buns, they could be browned under the grill that you would also be using for many other menu items. Or alternatively, you can even toast the buns on the top of the grill. That is very common here in Australia. You actually see the attendants and kitchen staff putting the buns directly on top of the grill. So have a chat to the dealer and see if there are many pieces of commercial kitchen equipment that you can use across all different menu items, and all of a sudden your list is going to go from a very comprehensive long list to a much more refined, shorter and cost-effective list. Okay, step number 3 is to take your refined list and split it into essential and non-essential purchases. So the essential pieces of equipment will be the ones that you absolutely need in your kitchen to be able to operate your concept, your food-based business. So you'll have your list of essentials, and then you'll also have a secondary list, which are the items that you purchase if the budget stretches that far. Then the non-essentials, they might be the wish list, they might be more expensive pieces of equipment that you can really do without but would save you time and energy. So refine that list even further. Okay, before we continue, for those of you who already operate a food-based business, how have you been able to save money with your equipment? Pop your comments in the list below and let's have a look at what's working really well for some other people. Okay, step number 4 is actually to investigate whether it's better to purchase or lease the equipment. Now, for those of you on a really tight budget, leasing or hire purchase or even rental might be the way to go. So in every country, there are different systems. So look into it. It might be more cost effective than extending your budget or worst case scenario, having to borrow more money and a greater capital investment to actually purchase equipment outright. This also works really well if you know you're going to play with a menu and it's going to change over a period of time. Then you've got the flexibility when you no longer need a piece of equipment to be able to return it. Now, as I mentioned before, always go to reputable dealers. Now that also extends to second hand. So other than renting, leasing and purchasing, you've also got the opportunity to go to second hand dealers. Now if you're going to go down the second hand path, it's actually so important that you know a piece of equipment's history. You need to make sure, and I can't stress this enough, that it has a strong service history so that you know it has been really looked after and well maintained. You don't want to buy a lemon. This is actually really common. Just think about if you were buying a car. If you bought a second-hand car, are you going to buy it off someone off the street where you have absolutely no recourse and roll the dice? You may if you're buying an absolute bargain, but beware the bargains, right? There's usually a reason something is cheap. As the saying goes, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. So when it comes to your equipment, and if you go down the path of second-hand, go to a second-hand dealership. And then of course you've actually got recourse if something goes wrong. You can go back to them and say, you know what, I bought this 6 months ago, here is all the documentation, and it's now costing me several $1,000s in repairs. Because they're worried about their reputation and the impact on their brand, you're far more likely to get them to engage and really help you out to problem solve. But if it's an average Joe on the street, once that piece of equipment is sold, he's walking away and you'll probably never see or hear from him again. Okay, step number 5 is absolutely crucial. What you need to do is take your equipment list that has been refined and revised and match it against your location. So if you've already chosen a location, you've already committed to a lease, this is absolutely crucial. Don't go buying and leasing equipment until you've gone to the site, you've measured up and you've checked access to services. I can't tell you the number of businesses that I've dealt with over the years who have purchased very expensive commercial kitchen equipment that thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, only to find they don't actually fit in the space required. Here's a trick. You need air circulation. Often people just take the base measurements of a piece of equipment, but unless there's adequate room on the sides and at the back of the piece of equipment, for most that are motor-based, they won't fit in the space required if you've just gone for the standard base measurement of the actual piece of equipment. And here's another tip. If you haven't got a location yet, make sure when you're looking at locations and you've already got in the event you've already got equipment, make sure you've actually got the services connections to be able to connect that equipment. Again, I can't get over the number of times I see people turn up with equipment, they've rented a site, and then they realize that there's no adequate gas connection in the kitchen to be able to service the number of gas fueled pieces of equipment that they've purchased. So rest assured, it's worth doing your homework. Now, if you'd like to access our restaurant equipment checklist, make sure you click the link below and you can use it as a guide to ensure that you buy the equipment that is right for you. But just remember, our top tip and recommendation is always going to be start with your menu. Don't forget, you can always follow us on our Facebook page for regular updated industry information. And if you would like weekly tips and tricks on how to start or grow your food-based business, make sure you click the subscribe button and you'll be notified every time we drop a new video. Thanks for watching.